The White House awaiting approval for the president's choice to secede, I should say, Justice Antonin Scalia on the Supreme Court. Vice President Mike Pence spent part of his weekend trying to rally support for Judge Neil Gorsuch. Doug Schoen is a former advisor to President Bill Clinton and an FNC contributor. Ed Rollins is a former campaign manager for the Reagan-Bush 84 campaign and worked closely with the Trump team pre-election. Gentlemen, good to have you.
Good to be here.
Thank you.
All right. I do want to eventually get to Gorsuch and the Supreme Court, but I want to start with the news of the day. And, you know, something you said pre our segment here, Ed, really hit me. It resonated because you said that the lead is being buried. Why?
Well, first of all, this is an administration that's measuring motion. They think that they get a lot of things done, a lot of promises made, a lot of promises kept. What they don't understand is they've got months to put this stuff in play. Committing to build a wall, doing the immigration over a period of time, which was done well, doing most of the things the president's done in the first 2 weeks. This has been an exhausting 2 weeks. I'm sure the staff, which is a brand new staff, there's only 2 people in the White House who've ever been in the White House before. That staff has to be exhausted, and they're going to make mistakes, and they don't know how to do it properly. Doesn't mean the policies are wrong, but the implementation is wrong, and it's getting polluted by the tactics.
All right. So what we were talking about previously was the fact, Doug, that this immigration pause.
Sure.
The pause for extremely vetting and everything else. So all of that, and now you've got the stay, correct?
Yep.
All right. And forgive me because I'm being talked to right now, guys. If you want to tell me what's going on, I'm listening. So you've got all of that going on, and that's kind of overtaking the message of this Supreme Court nominee, which Democrats have to be happy about that.
Well, Democrats are concerned about something else, which is their base is so angry that you have the Trump resistance coming to the fore. Now, it's all right and good that the opposition party oppose those aspects of a president's policy that they object to, but to object to everything, to be out in the streets, to be rallying against Senator Schumer at his home, get a spine, paints the Democrats as just obstructionist. And as we were saying, and Ed was saying, the administration didn't sell their policy on the pause of immigration. The president could have done a primetime address on that. And
you think he should have done that previous to rolling out the executive order?
That's what I would have done. I would have done it.
So, but what do you do with the argument of really keeping us safe? If you telegraph out there so much that's going to be coming down the pike, how do you protect the American people then?
You do the announcement as a primetime address with an explanation that begins, as I am speaking, we are implementing.
Okay. Interesting. Ed, you're in agreement.
I'm in total agreement. One of the things that they have done is there were several of them. The president's only had 4 of his cabinet members approved, and the Secretary of State had 43 votes against him, the largest number of votes ever against any Secretary of State in the history of the country. The 4 are the smallest number of people to ever be approved in the first 2 weeks. But the Democrats had several they probably could have made serious charges against, but they didn't. They're not going to win one of these battles. Betsy DeVos is the closest because they went after all of them and they didn't do it very well, and they walked away from the hearings as opposed to standing up in the hearings and saying, listen, this is outrageous for these reasons. They basically didn't show up. And I think that was a bad tactic, and I think to a certain extent they want to be nothing but an opposition party. Trump's going to get his cabinet, Trump's going to get his ability to implement, and they're not going to have the support they need long term.
Can you just talk to me about where we go from here, though, for Democrats? Because they seem to be really out there. I mean, you're hearing that Republican leaders, we had Brian Yanis reporting earlier this hour, are having to be escorted, at least one, and in some cases people in your own party. There's been chaos at town halls from angry Democrat voters against Democratic leaders, and they've had to bring in security for your own people.
Well, here's the thing. I think my party is making a profound mistake. Ed and I were talking before. I think we both believe that the Democrats should oppose those policies that they cannot support, like the immigration ban, but things like tax reform, like infrastructure, are policies they can and should support and find ways to pay for those policies in a way that support democratic values. But instead, we're getting violence, or certainly violent intentions by angry Democrats. hurting, I think, their cause.
I want to talk about the U.S. Supreme Court, because with regard to this immigration pause, we could see a situation where it actually reaches the court. And Ed, you seem to think that they would delay any sort of decision until there are no longer 8 justices, which now could be split on the issue of reinstating that immigration pause.
You can't overturn an appeals court. And I assume on Monday there's 2 judges that basically ruled to hold up the judge in Seattle. They could probably make it go to the big court, but traditionally the Ninth Court is full of Democrats, and it probably won't happen. So the likelihood is very high that it has to go to the Supreme Court. That'll be 2 or 3 months. It will take 5 votes to overturn the appeals court. Otherwise, if it's a 4-4 tie, the appeals court holds, and you're basically in this dialogue for a long period of time.
So as we move forward, and you saw some of that Bill O'Reilly exclusive with the president, you know, what's interesting about that is we learned a couple of things, and one of them was it could be a year from now before we see any changes to Obamacare. I'm hearing that might be a good thing, particularly for the Republican Party. Why?
Well, this is particularly a good place for Democrats who basically left Republicans out of the process the last time. There's a lot of expertise on the part of the Democrats. I think most people that are valid thinkers don't think the system is working. And that's a good place to have some bipartisan support, because Republicans now realize they can repeal it, but they can't fix it short term. And so they need, I would argue that's a good place for them to have some.
And it's a good place for the Democrats to let it be the Republicans' problem, not the Democrats. One quick point about that interview, and I say this as a loyal, patriotic American. I cannot accept moral equivalence between the United States and Russia, Vladimir Putin, and our leadership, Democrat or Republican. I just can't.
Okay, you brought up one of the key issues on this Sunday, and I know it's Super Bowl Sunday, so a lot of people have been focused on football, but as we set up the next week here on Fox Report with what will be talked about in politics and news and beyond, and that is a sticking point for your party. There are Republicans that are coming out and denouncing any idea that there would be equivalency on any level between the United States and Russia. What say you?
Well, the Senate leader today, basically Mitch McConnell, that's going to be the key leader long term. I mean, he's the one that has the very narrow majority that he has to work with, condemned it today, and basically, just said that's not, we don't tolerate.
Why does the president say it? What do you understand President Trump saying?
I think what President Trump said is he wants to have a good relationship with Putin. He doesn't really know Putin. The question got raised by O'Reilly about that Putin has murdered people that have been against him. And Trump sort of kind of dismissed it, that murders go on everywhere, including us, which I think is a ridiculous statement to make. And I think if he thought about it, he would never have made that statement. But equally as important, Republicans aren't going to live with that. Republicans are not going to basically say, well, whatever you want to do as a leader of Russia is okay with us, because it's not okay with us. We condemn it.
As a patriot, somebody who believes in our values and the Judeo-Christian ethic, to equate our values to the Russians, what we've done overseas to try to support America, is just something that is wrong. I can't accept it. And I would urge our president, and he is our president, to clarify.
We have some big confirmations coming up, one with the Education Secretary, Betsy DeVos. What are your thoughts about that?
She'll be confirmed on Mike Pence. It's a 50-50 vote at this point in time. They have to basically wait till the end of till they basically, they have to get her up before the Attorney General gets nominated, which probably the next 2-3 days, because they need that 51st vote and a 50th vote. And if he gets confirmed first, then they got to wait till someone gets reappointed.
All right, Ed Rollins, Doug Schoen, great to have you.
Thank you,
gentlemen.